Hello, this is Helen Settle.
Sorry. The weekly gatherings, our weekly gatherings include our women's group via Zoom on Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Kathy Santo can give you information about the group. And for the men's group, you can see Tom Saluga for information as needed. Please support our social media outreach. Please like and share our weekly posts on Facebook and Instagram. And remember, all of our services are available on our YouTube channel. Please, for those who are joining us in person, we gently remind you to silence your mobile devices at this time, as I am silencing mine. And now, let us prepare for this morning's service. Our opening words are from Nathan Ryan. A renewed hope for this world. Be it real or a metaphor, whatever is in your backpack or your briefcase or your purse that you've brought into the sanctuary that is weighing you down, leave it behind. Whatever you're carrying that is keeping you distracted or caught up in shame or guilt or hopelessness, leave it behind. If you need it, it will be there when we're done. But for this hour, just let it go. Come into this place with open hearts. Come into this place with a soul that has remembered how to be tender again. Come into this place with renewed hope for this world. Come into this place ready to build a world we've always been worthy of and that we've always dreamed of. Now I invite you to join me in lighting our chalice. You can find the affirmation in our order of service. We light this chalice,
the certainty of truth, and the spirit of love, unite, worship, and fellowship.
As an extension of lighting our chalice, I want to take a moment of silence to light 3 candles for some of the names of those who have recently been affected by police brutality. We cannot cover all of the names of those affected. So we will light a candle for the life of Raphael Nafis de Kemper, for the life of Larry K. Armour, and for the life of Austin Cousins. May these lights be a symbol of our commitment to continue the work of racial justice and to proclaim that Black lives matter. Our opening hymn, you can find it in your great hymnal, hymn 208, Every Time I Feel the Spirit.
A word about the roadmap this morning. 208 starts with the refrain. Sing the refrain twice, on to verse 1, after the refrain, on to verse 2, and then the refrain twice. Please stand.
Now is the time in our service for joys and sorrows. If you're visiting us for the first time, this is a time when you can stand up and introduce yourself. For those who are gathering in person, we invite you to raise your hand and then stand where you are seated. I will give you the microphone to share your joy or sorrow. We invite you to share what's in your heart. And for those who are joining us online, we invite you to type into the chat your joys and sorrows. Sally will read them aloud. We invite you to share what is in your hearts. Anybody? Chris? Okay, let's start. Okay, start with Chris.
Yeah, hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Chris. Good to see everybody. So I've got two kind of joys. My granddaughter Violet turned 8 on Thursday, which was fabulous. But when I saw her on 7, even though she's been doing a countdown to her birthday, aka there are gifts involved. Every day was like 15 more days, Graham, 15 more days. Anyway, the day before she told me, Graham, I think I'm going to stay 7. So all of a sudden I'm starting to see this growing up thing. I don't know. It's got some rough edges to it. So she rethought that, but the gifts went over well. And then my second joy is just to shout out again our concert on February 9th and to our instigator back there, Mr. Ben. So he came up with an idea. He saw something that needed done and he did it. And he's brought so many of us who are working with him to really produce this, that's really where the joy is all about, to see us really getting behind this wonderful idea to bring Curtis High School here for a jazz concert in honor of Black History Month, and also to recognize George Curtis. So just an added note on the George Curtis bit, I went over and I knocked out 234 Bard Avenue where Lorraine and Roy Danishevsky live, and that is the George William Curtis house. They have been there for many, many years. And they were here in 2002 for our 150th anniversary because, as they have many times, they have dressed in the costume of George and Anna. So she was thrilled that I just knocked on the door and told her about this because it had appeared in the advance. We got a wonderful press release in the advance. So she was just pleased to get knocked on the door, and they're going to make every effort to attend. I have no idea if they're going to be coming in costume or not. I'm sure if they're going to do that, she will let me know. I would appreciate a heads up, but I do hope they can come. So it was just one more way to see the outreach, the puddle of one idea that really hit and resonated with so many of us, and the ripples that it's causing is just really great and a tremendous joy.
Yes, excellent.
Hi, my name is Juliet. I'm a member of the church, and my joy is to hear Debbie-Ann Paige speak. Always a joy. One of my favorite speakers here at the Unitarian Church. And my sorrow is, and it's not really a sorrow, it's kind of an ongoing situation, as I'm the primary caregiver for my mom, and she's declining, and she's becoming more dependent. And it's just very slow and gradual. And then there's a day that she can't do something that she used to do before. So it's kind of like an ongoing grief that just kind of continual, And so it's a comfort to come to church and be with my community. And also, I just have to remind myself to live in the moment, and to enjoy the time that we do have together, and the time that we're, enjoying each other's company, and the times that I can make her laugh, I just got to try and stay in the moment. Just really hard to do. I never had a contentious relationship with my mother. It's always a very loving relationship, so I don't have any other family. So it's just it's a big kind of ongoing loss. And I'm sorry to get so emotional, but that's just where I am right now. So thank you very much for listening.
Hi, I'm Randy Leeson, and a sorrow is that my mother's sister Helen, who just turned 104 in December, died a couple of weeks ago. She was an amazing woman. She was a great sportswoman. She was playing golf up to her mid-90s and playing doubles tennis in her early 90s. She wasn't having a great time the last few years, but she's at rest now. And as a joy, I just got back from my first vacation in 5 years, so that was really fantastic.
Hi, I'm Sue Flynn. Juliet, I just want to let you know that I also am caring for my dad, and I share everything you're feeling. And there were times when do I have to do this? And then I slap myself and say, enjoy it. And I do. I live in the moment with him, and we share wonderful stories, things I didn't even know, and we're writing them down, and that's helping. It's helping him and me. So just let you know that I'm there for you.
Hi, I'm Mike Stein. I just wanted to let everybody know that Maureen came through the surgery for her knee replacement with flying colors. She's doing quite well, but it's a difficult road ahead. It's an up and down reality depending on the degree of pain that she's experiencing. And it's exhausting for me, but it's a positive, definite positive outlook, and we keep going.
Is that everybody? Thank you for sharing your joys and sorrows with us, and for those that were held silently in your hearts. And now we're going to pause for meditation. I'm sorry, Sally. Of course, of course. People at home, I apologize. Sally, the hand.
We can't forget our people on Zoom. And there's Helen Settles is on Zoom. Many of you know her, and Suzanne was really excited to see her. And Suzanne also said, our thoughts are with you, Juliet. Caregiving is hard and wonderful work to the world. And Helen said, my joy is my grandchildren and great-granddaughter, Lavender. My sorrow is that I mourn the deaths of all the children killed in Palestine.
Okay. Now is the time for meditation. I will offer a quote to focus our meditation and then ring the bell. At that point, I invite you to begin the meditation with 3 deep breaths. After a few minutes, I will ring the bell again to mark the end of our time. Today's quote from the Buddha is as follows: there are 2 mistakes one can make along the road to truth: not going all the way and not starting. And for the reading this morning, Debbie-Ann Paige will come up to read One Way Ticket by Langston Hughes.
Good morning. One Way Ticket by Langston Hughes. I pick up my life and take it with me, and I put it down in Chicago, Detroit, Buffalo, Scranton, any place that is north and east and not Dixie. I pick up my life and I take it on the train to Los Angeles, Bakersfield, Seattle, Oakland, Salt Lake, any place that is north and west and not south. I'm fed up with Jim Crow laws, people who are cruel and afraid, who lynch and run, who are scared of me and me of them. And I pick up my life and I take it away on a one-way ticket, going up north, going out west, gone.
Now is the time in our order of service when we take an offering. We know it's the gifts of all of us that help support our ability to thrive and grow. For those attending in person, we will be passing the collection plate. And for those online, links and instructions will be posted in the chat. You can mail us a check, donate through our PayPal giving page on our website. So please give as generously as you can. Our offerings will be gratefully received. Turn me around, keep on walking, keep on walking, marching to freedom, marching up to freedom. Like nobody, turn me around, turn me around, turn me around, ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land, marching up to freedom land.
3 times, so it really suits that. Please stand and do.
So at this time, I'd like to introduce our speaker, Debbie-Ann Paige. Debbie-Ann is a public historian specializing in community and local African American history and a professional genealogist. She is co-president and a founding member of the Richard B. Dickinson Staten Island chapter of the Afro-American Historical and Genealogical Society, and an appointed member of the New York City Council Task Force created to examine monuments, statues, public art, and historical markers on city-owned property. She has developed an app representing Staten Island's African American past with a modest grant from the Staten Island Arts, and most recently was the historical consultant on the recently published book, The Black Angels, The Untold Story of the Nurses Who Helped Cure Tuberculosis. She holds a BS in Business Studies from Southern New Hampshire University and both a BA and an MA in History from the College of Staten Island, CUNY. She is currently working toward a Doctor of Education in Community-Based Leadership at the College of Staten Island. Debbie.
Thank you, Ruth. I was like, who's that? Who's doing that? Good morning again. Thank you for having me. It is always such a pleasure to be here with you. I was just saying to Ruth earlier that, hey, I remember when we put those steps in. So you've been having me here for a long time, and I appreciate you for that. So this morning, I'm going to talk a little bit about migrants, migration, and the movement of Black bodies. But I always like to start to give people a visual. So I'm going to ask you to think about this. It's a warm Monday morning in July, about 78 degrees, and you know you're going to have a busy day at the port. That is the port of embarkation at the water's edge in Stapleton. You're sitting at a small kitchen table with a cup of coffee, bread that's lightly toasted, and you've just broken the shell on your soft-boiled egg. You look at the white ceramic egg holder with the 2 blue lines circling the top, and you smile. It had belonged to your grandmother. It was one of your most prized possessions because Big Mama gave it to you the day you were leaving home in North Carolina nearly 20 years ago. It makes you smile when you remember how she taught you to just gently tap, tap, tap on the shell to get the delicious insides of that perfect 2-minute soft-boiled egg. You open the paper of the New York Age and you begin to read from the news from last Saturday. You thumb through some pages and an article catches your eye. The headline reads, Saturday, July 12, 1941, the Empire State, a refuge for migrants. And you slowly nod your head knowingly. You read the next line, and here's what it says. As the war progresses, the shortage of labor, especially in the skilled trades, will become more and more acute. Russia has offered to pay for all of the munitions of war that this country can send her, and is expected that factories in these lines will speed up production in order to fill the rush of orders now coming in. As a result, there is likely to be another migration of Negroes from the South to the large industrial centers of the country, similar to the one that began in the last year. Again, you slowly nod your head in acknowledgement. For that reason, we are calling attention of prospective migrants to the Empire State as a place where they may better their lot. And by the Empire State, we mean New York, excluding New York City, well, except for Staten Island. Moreover, there is little or no war work being done in the factories of these boroughs and is giving employment to Negroes. The borough of Richmond has a population of less than 10,000 Negroes out of a total of close to 500,000 people. And in addition, there are a number of shipyard and factories in that borough where employment may be secured. At that, you close your eyes and you nod your head a little harder. The article goes on to warn the migrants that they know are now coming. Decide against stopping in Harlem, where their presence can only aggravate a situation now acute due to the overcrowding and little work. Finally, the article wraps up. The National Urban League would do well to anticipate the migration that is coming and try to guide the migrants to those sections that offer the best opportunity of work and harmonious living conditions. Reading that last line, you fold up the paper, you finish your coffee and your toast, and you head off to work. Myself, a migrant to this country, I found this article quite intriguing. Here was one of the country's most well-known and influential African-American newspapers exclaiming the best place to settle if you were part of the second wave of the Great Migration, staring to newcomers either upstate or to Staten Island. The Great Migration is a movement of 6 million Black bodies from the southern states, the Caribbean, and West Africa between 1910 and 1970. I landed here in 1969 from Jamaica. They moved to the north, the Midwest, and the western regions of the country. The movement of Black bodies took place in 2 waves. The first 1910 to 1930, and the second from 1940 to 1970. African Americans left the South because of poor economic opportunities, social and racial discrimination, and an unimaginable amount of racial violence that was bookended by 2 world wars. The first wave was precipitated by the northern industrial need for cheap labor when European immigration pretty much came to a halt with the war, and the unrelentingly brutal treatment of Black families when Black soldiers returned from the First World War. The second wave took place when families fled Jim Crow South with the hope and the possibility of change and opportunity as the Second World War began. Isabel Wilkerson, the author of The Warmth of Other Suns, told NPR in 2021, it stands out, referring to the overwhelming movement of Black bodies, because this was the first time in American history that American citizens had to flee the land of their birth just to be recognized as the citizens that they had always been. No other group of Americans have had to act like immigrants in order to be recognized as citizens. So this great migration was not a move. It was actually seeking a political asylum within the borders of one's own country. They were defecting a caste system known as Jim Crow. It was an artificial hierarchy in which everything that you would and could do was based solely on the way you looked. New York City absorbed the greatest number of African American migrants at this time, more than any other city in the country during that first wave of migration. The number of African Americans living in New York City tripled from 91,000 to 327,000 between 1910 and 1930. So it's easy to see why the New York Age would say, brace yourselves, there's a second wave coming. Just as the first wave of migration is taking place, there's a man named John M. Royal, himself a migrant from Halifax, Virginia, and arguably one of the most successful African-American businessmen, began selling property or land lots on Staten Island. Mr. Royal came from Virginia in 1893, settled in Harlem, and began selling these lands to would-be African-American homeowners. In 1909, he was the sole agent for the West Brighton Improvement Company. He provided a weekly picnic-like excursion from Harlem to Silver Lake, to the Silver Lake area of Staten Island. And the New York Age would report the names of these sojourners, and the trips steadily grew in popularity. After one particularly successful excursion in July of 1909, Royal was pleased to tell the Age that 6 people had purchased lots. His ad in the Age read, "Home seekers, free excursion, beginning June 17th, every Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday until further notice. John M. Royal, sole agent for the West Brighton Improvement Company, would provide transportation to Silver Lake, West Brighton, for any who wanted to examine the remaining lots to be sold." The ad talked about the selling of lots for $275, and the terms were $10 down and $5 a month. The titles were guaranteed by the Lawyers Title Insurance Company of New York. To sweeten the pot, he mentions the proposed Staten Island subway that would connect New York, Brooklyn, Staten Island, and New Jersey, and that it was expected to pass by their property, suggesting an ease of their commuting. Clearly, African American migrants found refuge, homes, and employment in New York City, including Staten Island. However, Staten Island was not as welcoming as the newspapers alluded to. While escaping a grim existence in the South, African American migrants often encountered new challenges in the North. Many faced housing shortages, discrimination, and limited job opportunities. During the Second World War, more than 6,000 African American soldiers were stationed here at the port of embarkation in Stapleton. They were harassed by neighbors in the surrounding neighborhood of the port with racial animus and hostility. The USO was segregated, and soldiers found themselves without a place to unwind. They were restricted to the base unless they boarded a city bus to the ferry, where they were free to roam around once they were on the other side. When returning to the base, they got on the bus, could not step off until they got back to the base. So, if you remember the last time that I was here, I spoke about Nettie Carter Jackson and Dora Cole Norman. Well, these two women joined a small cadre of concerned members of the community, including the pastor of the Lutheran Church. And they supported the soldiers by creating the Booker T. Washington Center for Colored Servicemen. which stood at Sand Street in Stapleton. There was a strict movement of their bodies of the service members to and from the base. And now, finally, there was a place for them to find relief and unwind from the drudgery of their military life during the war. So soon after opening the center, soldiers were accused of petty crimes in the community, like robbery and assault, while others were accused of rape. In one tragic story based solely on the accusation of rape by one white woman who claimed to be a Gold Star wife of a serviceman who had been killed in battle, 4,500 African-American servicemen were called out of the barracks, lined up, and their hands inspected for a bite that she said she had delivered during the assault. None was found. She told, though, the local officials and the Staten Island Advance that she had bitten the hand of the man who assaulted her while her 4-year-old son looked on helplessly. And based on her statement to the press, 4,000 men who were honorably serving their country, 4,500 bodies, Black bodies, were moved from the Staten Island port. Thurgood Marshall and Walter White of the NAACP hired a white private detective to go into the neighborhoods to investigate the incident. And what he uncovered was that not only was she not assaulted, but she was also no Gold Star wife. The community surrounding the base simply wanted those soldiers removed from their neighborhood based solely on the way they looked. White community members and their elected officials used this fabricated incident to call on the DOD to remove the men. In another story about the movement of Black bodies, the famous 6888 Central Postal Directory Battalion, I know it's a mouthful, right? Took me for a minute. They were the only all-Black, all-female unit deployed overseas by the US Army during the war. The unit, or the battalion, was comprised of about 855 women, and they were led by Major Charity Adams. She actually wrote a book, if you can find it on Amazon if you're interested. The battalion served within the Women's Army Corps and was affectionately known by the Black community as Black Wax. They left for and returned from Europe through that port of embarkation in Stapleton. The 6888 encountered racial and gender discrimination from both the US military and Europeans while stationed in Europe overseas. But despite their awful treatment, they efficiently cleared the backlog of mail by processing over 17 million pieces of mail within 8 months and proved themselves as vital contributors to the war effort. During the era of the Great Migration, Staten Island stood out as the quintessential oxymoron of welcoming and rejection. It was both the place of refuge for African Americans seeking relief from Jim Crow South, and sometimes an unwelcoming and discriminatory place of Jim Crow North. But out of this comes the NAACP, the Urban League of Staten Island, and the Black Angels, just to name a few. Migrants and refugees land in Staten Island today, seeking safety and opportunity. It would do us well to remember our role in history of the Great Migration. And yes, I still hold out hope that Staten Island can still be a place of refuge for those we call migrants. Thank you.
Now, please join us in singing hymn number 169 in your Gray hymnal, right? Okay. We shall overcome. 169 in the gray hymnal, yes. I invite you to join me in extinguishing our chalice. You can find the affirmation in our order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, or the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. For these we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And our closing words. Go in peace, seeking justice, by Jim McGaw. When I say go in peace, I don't mean go in mindless oblivion. When I say go in peace, I don't mean go without challenging yourself or others. When I say go in peace, I don't mean go in utter ease and comfort. When I say go in peace, I mean go in peace seeking justice. I mean go in peace committed to equal rights and opportunities for all. When I say go in peace, I mean go in the peace that is created when together we bind and build communities of true solidarity, deep compassion, and fierce, unrelenting love. Go in peace. And so ends our service. So please join us for hospitality in the parish hall.